What's up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. He's Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. We're right here at Wingnutz, 1402 Millersport Highway. The bar and grill is absolutely bumping tonight. Pretty big game tomorrow. It looks like the Houston Texans are taking a big lead here in the first wild card matchup. We're going to be previewing Bills versus Broncos. But before we do, Shout is always brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets.
That's right, Bills Mafia. And as you can see here, I'm promoting that mega meat sale. If you're here live with us, head over to Tops once you leave. Wingnutz, if you're at home, head over after we're done with the live show. Mega meat sale ends tonight at midnight. You're going to have a little breakfast tomorrow, tailgating for the big game. They have Oscar Mayer bacon on sale. If you want to have some chicken wing dip, 99% fat-free, boneless chicken at Tops. Over 40 varieties, buy one, get one free. Head over to Tops tonight. Mega meat sale.
You absolutely nailed that. Did you memorize that, or is that just like you're just so into the meat sale that it's just all coming off the dome?
That's right.
That's impressive stuff. All right, so before we get too far into the details here, come out to Wingnutz. They're going to be showing Bills versus Broncos tomorrow. Drink specials. All the wings here are to die for. The flavors are out of control. AJ has put together a wonderful menu. Check out all their specialty items as well. You can follow them on all the social media platforms. All right, I want to start with the national buzz about this game, Ryan. It has taken quite a swerve over the last couple of days. I was watching a Barstool earlier today where John Gruden was talking about feeling the Denver Broncos, that they're getting all kind of hot at the right time at the end of the season. We push back a little bit on Coach John Gruden that they played the Kansas City practice squad last week, but there does seem to be, Diana Rossini, she came out and said there might be an upset brewing here in Buffalo. Are you surprised at all that it seems like of all of these matchups, the Broncos seem to be like the most live underdog for a lot of people on the national scene?
Yeah, I'm stunned by it. It's pretty crazy to me. And, you know, maybe it's one of those things where you look like a genius if you end up being right. And if you're wrong, well, it's the 7 seed versus the 2 seed. You're right. Eric Moody, NFL.com, Adam Rank. I've seen every now and then some upset specials being predicted here that the Denver Broncos are going to defeat the Bills. And I think what's stuck in their minds, Matt, is the final 10 games of the season. Over the final 10 games of the year, the Broncos offense did put over 32 points up per game. But you want to know who they played against? They played some pretty poor competition in those matchups. I just had it queued up and I just lost it here, so now I've got to find it. But obviously the practice squad of the Kansas City Chiefs, more so the backups than anything else. You had the Raiders, the Falcons, the Indianapolis Colts. It was a who's that, not a who's who of competition. They had losses against the Chargers and against the Bengals. The competition didn't add up in terms of the points per game. They're coming into Buffalo. It's going to be a much different matchup against a very healthy Bills team on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, on both sides of the ball. And I think to your point, when the Denver Broncos have played against playoff teams this season, not counting last week's game against the Chiefs, they're 1-5 with a minus 35 point differential. So when they've played good teams, they're not the same team as they are when they're able to beat up on some of these lesser opponents. I went back and watched the first half of Indianapolis and Denver that happened a couple of weeks ago. And honestly, I thought that was some of the best football I've seen Anthony Richardson play over the course of the first 15 or 20 minutes. This Denver defense was on its heels. They stalled in the red zone on the second drive, and then the wheels came off for Indianapolis. Denver came back in the second half. They're a better team. But on both sides of the ball, I think the Bills are better. We're going to get into all of those kinds of things in this game. The other part of this that I wanted to get like a little bit of a side point. You have a Bills team. If I'm Sean McDermott, I'm watching the All-Pro voting come out. I'm watching the Pro Bowl list coming out. And I'm absolutely loving every second of it because I got that posted all over the building in Orchard Park this week. No team plays with a chip on their shoulder like Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And right now, everybody's talking about Lamar Jackson. We're going to watch him here in a little while play up against division rival Pittsburgh Steelers. But I don't think we can overstate the steps that Josh Allen has taken in his game this season. The last time they played against the Denver Broncos, turnover-worthy plays were in the 7 to 10 range, depending on how you evaluate them. They've had 8 turnovers all season this year, Ryan. This is a different Bills offense. It's a different Josh Allen.
A much different Josh Allen, much different offense. The way that they're going to play against the Broncos tomorrow, I think there's a lot of advantageous matchups for the Bills to attack, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But, Josh Allen versus man, the O-line of the Bills versus the D-line of the Broncos. There's a lot that's going to be working in Buffalo's favor, where I think this could get away from Denver pretty quickly.
So thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel as well. We have a full house here at Wingnutz, 1402 Millersport Highway. If you're driving around town and you want to stop in, come on out. We'll be watching Ravens Steelers in a little while. I want to get into Josh Allen and this matchup against this Denver defense, because all we've been hearing all week is about this Denver pass rush. Patrick Surtain, who is probably going to be the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year in a couple of weeks here. How do you think the Bills are going to try to attack them? And how do you feel like Josh Allen matches up against this defense that did give him some problems last year? As a matter of fact, going back and watching that Denver Broncos game last year, at times in that game, he was frustrated. Part of that was because James Cook was putting the ball on the ground. Do you remember that game? James Cook actually had a run that I think went for 40 or 50 yards where he fumbled 20 yards into the run, recovered it, and then ran for another 20 yards. It was pretty crazy.
Bounced right into his arms. That was a very frustrating game. The too many men on the field at the end with the missed field goal. But like we just said, that is not the same Bills team. And you asked me about Josh Allen. I love this matchup for Josh Allen. They play a lot of man defense in Denver. You want to know who the third most efficient quarterback in the NFL is against man defense? It's Josh Allen. He picks man defense apart. Patrick Surtain is as good as advertised, but that's one man on an 11-man defense. You don't have to target him. You don't have to throw at him. You have enough weapons to spread that ball around. And, oh, by the way, the Dolphins defense, 31st in the league against running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. Ty Johnson, it's going to be a big game for him tomorrow, in my estimation. James Cook as well, possibly.
Yeah, and I think, to me, the key matchups are neutralizing the pass rush on the outside. For the Bills, you have Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, who I think are playing as well as any duo in the league, and they're going to face a bunch of really good guys. Nick Bonito, this guy is coming in as an absolute horse over the course of the season. Jonathan Cooper is another dude on the other side, kind of like some under-the-radar, unknown commodities that really get after the quarterback. John Franklin Myers, the Bills know him very well from his days with the Jets, but I think it's about relying on what you do really well. Getting the ball in the hands of your running backs, like you said. The tight ends are going to have to play a big role in this game. I'm thinking about Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Tomorrow on Buffalo Kickoff Live from the stadium, I put in my player to watch earlier this week, and for me, it's Dalton Kincaid. Going into this year, Ryan, we had such high expectations for this kid, and maybe too high. Yeah. Tight end is kind of a funny position. It kind of ebbs and flows. You had that breakout first year from Sam Laporta. He kind of, descended a little bit in year two. You saw Brock Bowers come in and absolutely explode. We'll see what happens for him in year two. But this is an opportunity for, I feel like, Dalton Kincaid to have a signature statement game.
Yeah, 100%. And, he was dealing with a knee injury late in the season. I think now you're going to have a healthy Dalton Kincaid. I think the Bills have a lot in that offensive game plan that they haven't even, shown just yet. And I think Kincaid could be a big part of that. They went away from Khalil Shakir late in the season. I think that was almost intentional. He's going to get more involved. I really think Joe Brady has, a lot of aces up his sleeve, so to speak, and it could start this weekend against Denver.
So we got to take a second here. We have actually a special playoff sponsor for Shout, and I'm super excited about this. Let me ask you a question before we get into it. How did you learn the game of football?
Yeah, sitting down with my dad, watching every Sunday, along with my older brother as well. That's kind of how you learned on the fly as a kid.
Exactly. My dad's actually in the house tonight. Shout out to Big Al. He just Friday was his last day of work. He retired. So congratulations on that. But he remembers those days in the living room, watching the Bills, watching NFL football, and me asking him question after question after question, trying to learn the game to the point where he probably wanted to tell me to shut up half the time, but he never did. There is this super cool new game they put together. It's called Future Fans Football. Check this out right here. This is the package that it comes in. They have so many cool interactive games. There's a little bit of a quiz booklet that you can learn. So I could send Lucas off to work when I go to the work on Sunday, have him learn the game. It's a really cool opportunity.
And that's perfect because, when we're at the stadium, we can't be there to answer those questions that our parents had to growing up. So the activity book, all the knowledge that you can learn, shout out to Future Fans Football.
It's honestly the easy button for getting your kid to fall in love with the game. You need an and you need to get it now so your kid can experience the joy of what will hopefully be a long Bills Super Bowl run. It's only $49.99 at futurefans.com. But if you use the code SHOUT, SHOUT, you'll get their biggest discount ever at 25% off. That's futurefans.com, code SHOUT. All right, where do you want to go next, Ryan?
Ooh, well, we have the whole agenda here to go over. Let's talk a little bit about, I was going to go with my favorite bullet point here. Let's go to third down defense, because I feel like that's one of those matchups where you can talk about Denver having an advantage, but the Bills also having an advantage. Something's going to happen here tomorrow.
So the third down defense for the Bills this season has been a mega problem. As a matter of fact, they're a bottom 7 defense in the league at third and long especially, but third down in general, getting off the field. Every guy I talked to in the locker room this week, from Ed Oliver to Rasul Douglas to AJ Epinesa, they know what's happened this season. Bobby Babich hasn't run away from it at all. And here's the big problem too. There's a couple of easy buttons in the Denver Broncos offense, and one of them is Marvin Mims. I was watching a couple of games late in the second half, and that's where he's really started to come on. You get the ball in his hands behind the line of scrimmage in some type of screen scenario, he's able to kick it upfield, get a first down. That's where the Bills really need to get off the field, get the ball back to Josh Allen, and not create those long drives that, unfortunately for the Bills, they've not been as good in the red zone this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And tackling is going to be key on those plays. Marvin Mims is electric with the ball in his hands. But why I said something has to give tomorrow with this is, as bad as the Bills have been on third down defense, the Broncos are bottom 4 in the league in terms of 3 and outs in this league. So if the Bills can force a few 3 and outs early, the offense gets rolling early, you put Denver in a hole, you make them one-dimensional, and good things can happen. So it's kind of weakness versus weakness, and something has to give at Highmark Stadium tomorrow afternoon.
We've been waiting to see Matt Milano starting to look like the guy that everybody remembers from last season, right? Those first 5 games, that was the peak, the height of his career. And they're going to need some version of that. I think Taron Johnson is really important in this game. Terrell Bernard being ready to go early in the week. I think you're really excited about that. The quad injury kept him out last week. But those are the 3 key pieces to keeping some of that short game in check. Bo Nix loves to throw short passes. He has one of the lowest yards per attempt in the NFL this season. And the next point I want to talk about is what I think not only this game comes down to, but this playoff run comes down to for the Bills. Where have they fallen short every single year in the playoffs for the most part? Their defensive line, okay? Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, they got to be dudes tomorrow. Bo Nix, when he is pressured, is a bottom 5 quarterback in all the efficiency metrics. So all you have to do is get after him. Problem is their pass rush or their pass blocking offensive line, number 1 in the NFL. So here's the big ticket. Ed Oliver, he didn't want to talk about last season when we talked to him the other day. He hasn't wanted to talk about what's gone wrong against the run, on some of these short passes, but they're going to have to neutralize Bo Nix and not let this team get going offensively. It sounds like a motivated group.
Yeah, absolutely. And I expect Bobby Babich to dial up some pressure at times with some blitzes, but winning up front with your front 4 is going to be key in this game, and you need Greg Rousseau to look like a guy that's trying to cash in after a postseason run, trying to get that big money. All the traits are there. All the tools are there. It's just about putting it together. When you're talking about Von Miller, more of a situational pass rusher at this point in his career, but he's going to have a little chip on his shoulder going against his former team. He posted on social media about it right after the matchup was set. Patrick Surtain Jr. kind of coming out saying, our time is now, Von Miller's time is in the past. I think that gives you a little extra motivation. And Ed Oliver, too, he's talked this year, Matt. He hasn't put up the stats of last year. He's getting the pressures. This is going to be a big game for him to make some of those plays where he finishes, where he gets after the quarterback and creates those pressures. And even those backup guys, AJ Epinesa, get your arms up, get your hands on a ball, and good things can happen.
Yeah, I think the Bills, in games this season where they've struggled to get pressure, has been some of their worst performances of the season. You think about that Rams game when they came at under 10 pressures combined. You think back to that Ravens game when they were only able to generate 4. That is one of the keys. When you're facing a rookie quarterback, you have to light him up. You have to dial him up. And if they're rushing 4, the other problem here with Bo Nix is he will take off and run.
Oh, yeah, he has great legs. The Bills have to confuse him tomorrow. Give him some looks pre-snap that he hasn't seen. Make him think that maybe you're coming at times, back up, drop out, know that he's going to try to get the ball out quickly, try to jump on some of those routes. That's something Rasul Douglas was really good at in year one, is jumping on routes. He hasn't had nearly as good of a year this season, obviously, but wouldn't shock me at all if the Bills can maybe confuse Nix pre-snap and take advantage of maybe a quick pass that's a little off the mark.
I was talking about this on I think a radio show that I did this week. The Bills have done such a good job under Sean McDermott, really getting them to perform consistently well across the regular season. The problem is the bottom's fallen out in the playoffs, like we just talked about. To me, there's kind of like a sneaky underlying storyline here, or an opportunity for a storyline. This Bills defense has been what people have kind of dogged them about all season long. Maybe they've been kind of waiting to play their best football for this time of the year when everybody's doubting them. This will be a good time to figure it out. And I think the key piece you mentioned earlier, they're healthy. They've never been healthy on the defensive side of the ball going into the playoffs. And if they were, things changed very quickly in that department. Having all allotments of your your skill players on defense at the front, the second level, at the cornerback position, not having Christian Benford against the Chiefs last year was an absolute killer.
Yeah, well, I mean, just look at this roster. I mean, Von Miller, I said, situational guy, wasn't there last season. You had Daquan Jones at less than 100%, Christian Benford, Rasul Douglas, Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard. All these guys were banged up or out in this matchup, and now you're going into the playoffs. They're healthy. They have all their guys. There's no excuses not for them to step up against Denver and be that defense where they've shown it at times this season. You look at that matchup against the Chiefs, for instance, and the way they played in that game. They should be able to come in here and Sean McDermott's fared very well against rookie quarterbacks in his career. Between McDermott and Babbich's game plan and the execution from their starters, I think the defense could really be, one of the stars of the show tomorrow for the Bills.
We're here at Wingnutz, 1402 Millersport Highway in Amherst, New York, the home, our monthly home for the Live Shout podcast. Thank you so much to everybody coming out. Thank you for watching at home. Almost 1,000 watching across all platforms. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel as well. Where I want to go next, Ryan, is I'm going to throw 3 names at you. And I want you to pick which one of these guys has the best chance for their signature performance in this playoff game against the Broncos. Amari Cooper, Dalton Kincaid, or James Cook.
Part wants to go with Amari Cooper, thinking that they haven't even scratched the surface on what they can do with him. But I have to go with James Cook. I mentioned already, the Broncos have not defended the pass well out of the backfield in terms of receptions, 31st in the league. They love Ty Johnson in that role, but James Cook is going to have some opportunities as well. The juice that he brings, the ability to take a short catch to the distance, that to me makes me think he can be a factor in the passing game, not to mention how great he has been as a rusher this year. So I think that if anyone of those 3 are going to have a signature game, it's going to be James Cook. What about you?
For me, I think it's going to be Kincaid for a couple reasons. I went back and watched Denver against Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, and in that game, Mike Gesicki had an unbelievable performance. He was targeted 12 times, 10 receptions in that game for 86 yards. And when the Bills play against teams that go primarily man coverage, there's numbers that show that Josh Allen prefers to target Dalton Kincaid. If you go back to the matchup last season against the Denver Broncos, Kincaid had about 7 targets in that game, 51 and a touchdown in that game as well. And I think this is a matchup for Dalton Kincaid. He's been dealing with that knee injury in Denver. I think this 2 weeks to kind of recover from that, get as close as possible to 100%, I think is going to be a massive key for the Bills tomorrow.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. And, for those Bills fans watching and maybe putting in some bets tomorrow, Dalton Kincaid has also scored Dawson Knox has also scored the first touchdown for the Bills at least the last 4 years in the playoffs. So tight ends are usually part of that featured part of the offense. Don't be surprised if Knox and Kincaid have a role tomorrow afternoon.
All right. We're not going to wait any longer, Ryan. It is prediction time. So how we do it, if this is your first Shout Live podcast, we're going to do the predictions for tomorrow. Then we're going to bring up some fans. So if you're here and you want to come up, talk a little bit, we'll do a little bit of rapid fire. Give you about 2 minutes on screen. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm going to start with you. Who you got tomorrow?
Yeah, I have the Bills winning this one 34-20 tomorrow. Two-score win for Buffalo. When I look at it, I've already mentioned Ty Johnson as the X factor for the offense. As good as Denver is at getting after the quarterback, 63 sacks on the year, the Bills have a great O-line, and they have the ultimate quarterback sack eraser in Josh Allen. The guy that can stiff arm you, get around you, make plays with his arm and his legs. I just think this offense is going to be too much for Denver to handle. You mentioned the struggles against playoff teams. The Bills end up getting out to a fast start, a big lead. Denver never catches up. 34-20 Bills.
So for me, one of the things I've liked so much about Joe Brady this season is his willingness. He's been a little bit criticized for his lack of creativity as a play caller. But what he does do really well is he finds what's working against a specific opponent, and then he spams it. And what he's done in more games than not this season, he's found a way to exploit things on the other end, and he's leaned into it and found a way to be successful with it. Tomorrow, I think the Bills are going to be able to run the ball. I think that's where it's going to start for me, number one. I know takeaways, when you lean on that in the regular season, there's no guarantee that that's going to continue to be the case. But against a rookie quarterback, Sean McDermott in 13 career games against rookie quarterbacks, 7 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. The Bills are going to force Bo Nix into mistakes tomorrow. And Josh Allen is coming out pissed off. Let's just be honest about it. Yeah. I know he'll say all the right things. I'm speaking for him here. But all of the national hate that's spewed towards this guy, it's kind of crazy to think about. He's had all of these unbelievable records. We talk about first for Josh Allen almost weekly this time of year, every year. I think he's going to come out playing like an absolute alien, and the Bills win 34-23 over the Denver Broncos. There you have it.
I love it, Matt. And you're right. Allen should be ticked off. This whole Bills team should be with the All-Pros, the Pro Bowl nods, the lack of recognition for a 13-win season compared to those other teams in the league. Ravens having 9 Pro Bowlers, multiple All-Pros. The Bills have as many All-Pros, I believe I read, as the Cleveland Browns, which, the Browns are one of the worst teams in the league. It shows you the disrespect that they are seeing nationally here this year.
All right. That does it for the preview edition of the podcast. Now we're going to go to the fans. Who do we got first? Definitely not. You're in the back of the line. Who do we got first? We got a big take out there. Come on up. Where's Don? Oh, let's start with that. Then everybody else that wants to come up, just come on up right by the table here.
Thank you.
What's
going
up,
on, Matt?
I didn't see you hiding behind the light there. How's it going?
Good. I 4 wins, and I do get my biggest wish.
What's the biggest wish?
Super Bowl win.
All right, we got to shout out Ed real quick. Ed predicted 14 wins for the Bills at the beginning of the season on our preview episode. They come up with 13, but we're going to give you credit for it anyway, because let's be honest, last week they weren't really trying. So way to go, Ed. You nailed it.
It was hard to even watch that game.
I know.
So,
all right, what do you got for us this week? Story time.
First of all, shout out. Hello, Wingnutz. All right, let's hear you. Okay, all right. And as always, I do want to thank God for what Wingnutz has become and everybody who comes here that's involved. Thank you very much. Today's story goes back to when Wingnutz was at the Knights of Columbus, and it was just Alicia and I. And we had a guy come in who came up to the counter to read the menu. Alicia was at the counter. I was in the kitchen, and I heard him start to question the prices. And Alicia's like, well, I'm sorry, sir. The prices are the prices. And he started going over it and getting angry. And he started hassling Alicia, saying, you don't even know what's in this menu. How could you possibly know what the prices are? And she's like, yes, sir. Well, I wrote the menu, so I know what's in it. And he started getting even more angry. And finally, he's like, I want to speak to a manager. And she said, well, we don't have a manager here. We have owners. Well, I want to speak to an owner right now. And she says, okay, hold on. I'll go get me. It does a complete 360 and says, now, how can I help you? He got all mad, threw his arms up, and walked out the door. And that's the Wingnutz story of the week. So
it's so funny. We were talking pre-show about the price of chicken wings in general.
Oh my goodness.
If somebody told you when you started making wings that wings were going to be expensive as they are now, what would you have said?
I would have found it hard to believe.
Yeah.
When we first started doing this, wings were like $42 a case.
Wow.
Now they're like $142 a case.
That's crazy.
I know.
You said it's the most expensive part of the chicken.
It is. It's the most expensive part.
Way to go, Buffalo.
And, so please don't be mad at Wingnutz for our prices. We have to pay for the chicken too. So
thank you so much. We're so appreciative of you hosting us every month. And thank you for making the wings, man. They're awesome.
Thank you. Buffalo tomorrow. I picked them.
What's the score?
Kind of like what you said. 34 to something in the 20s. I don't think once they get behind Denver will be able to catch up.
I love it.
No.
Give it up for Ed.
All right, guys.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much, buddy. All right, Don, get in here, buddy. What's up? So Don, this is your first time to a live show. I think when I came back to the beat, you were one of the first like regulars on social media that I was interacting. So this was cool of you to come out tonight, man. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. Came from North Carolina.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think about tomorrow?
I think the Bills getting off to a fast start is important. I think the two big games this year, Detroit and KC, they really got off to a fast start. And, other points in the season, they really haven't done that. So I really think getting Denver in a hole and putting a rookie quarterback in a hole early is important.
I like it. So what are you thinking? How do you feel like the game's going to go?
My hope is they get off to a fast start and put Denver in a hole. But I think the Bills will end up coming out on top.
Close game?
Early, and then fourth quarter, they put the buckle down and really take it to them.
I love it. Great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Give it up for Don.
Yep.
All right, who do we got next? Come on up, Mike. I saw you lurking back there.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Not too bad. I'm feeling good about this game. I mean, Bo Nix, he was a little bit sporadic. He was pretty much the early Josh Allen experience earlier this year, but he seemed to be tightening things up in the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He's got who's he got? Patrick Surtain? Is that Cortland Sutton? I'm confusing my receivers. So Cortland Sutton's a good receiver, but other than that, or this Marvin Mims guy they're saying he was underutilized at the beginning of the year for reasons unknown. He was in a doghouse, but no one seems to know why. But they're using as a return man, as a good weapon on offense. He's averaging the most yards for punt returns. But other than those two guys, I don't see many teeth on this Broncos offense that the Bills can't deal with on defense, especially with everybody healthy for a change. Matt Milano's actually going to play in the playoff game for once.
I know.
Meanwhile, on defense, they do have who's their corner? Who's their shutdown
Patrick
corner?
Surtain.
That's who I'm thinking of, Patrick Surtain. But he's only going to be able to take away one guy. And as everybody's been saying, with our everybody eats mentality, we can reload on whatever we want to, whether it's pass catching running backs, tight ends, slot receivers, end receivers. I think their linebackers seem to be vulnerable to running backs coming out of the backfield. So I think Ty Johnson, if you guys haven't already talked about that, is going to be a big X factor for this game. Look for Josh Allen, look for him often as a good check down here. So they have a good pass rush. They even beat their sack record from their Super Bowl 50 team with that great defense.
Mm-hmm.
They have 63 sacks this year, if I'm not mistaken. So, but Josh Allen, we have a good offensive line, and Josh Allen, he's basically a big bullfighter. Any of those big bulls come running up, he can just flash that red cape and go Toro, and they'll just go flying by him while he makes another unbelievable SportsCenter play that's going to blow our minds again.
All right.
So I don't really see anything too threatening about the Denver Broncos. I'm expecting, well, there was one thing as a colleague, as a guest on the our podcast this Tuesday, the Pay the Bills podcast on Trainwreck Sports.
There it is.
Every Tuesday at 7. We had Pat Duffy from 96.5 WCMF over in Rochester and his own podcast, Let's Go Duffalo. He likes to point out that the Bills seem to have a problem. Anytime that they're favored by 10 or more points, anytime they're favored by double digits, they seem to not only not cover that spread, but lose outright. And I think we're favored by what, 8.5, 9 in this game?
8.5 points, yeah.
So we got to be careful about how much confidence Vegas has in the Bills this week, because it might be a little bit scary. But I don't see the Denver Broncos as anything scary right now. So I'm figuring 27-14 seems like a good bet for a score.
Great stuff.
What do you guys think?
I like it. I think you're right on the money.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, this Houston game here is moving right along. Are you surprised at all that the Texans are taking it to the Chargers like
I
this?
am a little bit. The Chargers came in as a hot team. They were pretty much the universal favorite based on all the national media analysts. And right now, like you said, yeah, they're the home team, but there were a lot of Chargers fans in the stadium today as well. So impressive performance from the Houston with all their injuries too.
A couple things I wanted to hit on real quick based on what Michael was just talking about. Number one, special teams is a really big part of this game. If I'm Sean McDermott, I'm sitting Matthew Smiley down tonight, and I'm saying, sir, kick the ball out of bounds, get your guys in line. I'm not giving Marvin Mims any opportunities. The Bills rank 26th in the NFL in DVOA and special teams. The Denver Broncos rank 4th. So it's good against one of the worst special teams units in the league. And I do think Matthew Smiley is on the hot seat as we move through this playoff run. If there's a special team snafu tomorrow, that could be a really big problem. That's got me worried. I'm kicking the ball out of bounds. I don't care. Make them go the length of the field. Don't give them any extra juice on special teams.
No, 100%. Tyler Bass needs to kick it out of the end zone or deep into the end zone. In terms of Sam Martin and the punts, extra hang time on those kicks. Even if you have to give up a few extra yards, make sure they're fair catching that ball. If you can angle it out of bounds, that's great too. You know, special teams at one point was a strength of this Bills, but under Sean McDermott has not been this season. And like you said, Matthew Smiley has a lot riding on these next few games.
We're at Wingnutz, 1402 Millersport Highway here in Amherst. My son looks like he wants to come on next. Come on up here, buddy. He's got the I Am Groot 26 shirts on tonight, and this is his buddy James. Come on in here, James. He's one of my studs on my travel baseball team. This is a pretty good jersey. What is that jersey, James?
Josh
You got to talk into this. You got to talk into that mic.
Josh Allen, Wyoming.
Did you get it for Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the post on Christmas morning. That's pretty cool. All right. How you feeling about tomorrow? Get that microphone right to your mouth.
Good.
How good?
38-21.
38-21. How many touchdowns for Josh Allen?
2.
2 touchdowns? And they're going to score 38? So you got a big James Cook game coming, huh?
Yeah.
All right. I like it. What do you think?
38-14.
38-14? So you think it's a total blowout? Tough day for the Denver Broncos. All right. Give it up for Luke and James. Thanks, guys.
I hope they're right. That makes it a lot easier for you and I in the press box.
Yeah,
for sure.
little inside. Yeah, let's raise that up a little bit. Thank you. Ryan, look at you. Look at you. Too far, though. Too far.
Too
It's all
far.
right. That's one thing, a little inside the game, if you will. If it's a blowout one way or the other, it's a lot easier on us. Obviously, for Bills fans, we hope that the Bills win. You want to come up?
This is my nephew, Evan. He's in from Arizona.
Nice. Well, I'll leave you to it, Brian. Go ahead.
Brian, who's your favorite nephew?
I love you all equally. After the show. Thank you.
That's awesome. Evan, come back here. Sign that man's shirt right now. Come on. Let's go. Have you ever done a signature before? It doesn't look like it.
Not on his shirt.
Selling this on eBay if anyone wants to know.
You're gonna lose money.
Are you making stick figures?
No. Listen, this is not easy to do.
Bro, just write your name.
It's a signature.
Oh my goodness. Evan, there you go. That's awesome.
Not as easy as it looks.
Listen, if you have another shirt, I'll do a signature for you afterwards. That was terrible. All right. Anybody else want to come up before we call this one a day?
Oh.
Yeah, come on up. We got 2 more. What's up, buddy? All right, say your name again.
Hey, John.
John?
Yes.
John, all right.
You guys have an awesome rapport. I just want to say the only time I've ever laughed out loud at a podcast is when you made that dad joke about Kyer Elam playing like booty and your reaction to it. So thank you very much.
What was my reaction? I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
Turn the camera off.
Oh, I turned him off.
Yeah.
So here's a funny story about that. There's a lot of Shout fans that get really mad at me when I take him out of the picture. But listen, every once in a while, I think both of us should be able to just put the other in timeout.
Yep.
That was out of line. And listen, the dad jokes, sometimes they go a little too far.
That
one
great.
was a little too far.
Well, I loved it.
All right.
Yeah.
How you feeling about tomorrow?
Great. 42-20.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Wow, we got a lot of blowout predictions for tomorrow, Ryan.
Yeah. It's happening.
What's giving you that kind of confidence? And you got to eat the microphone.
No, I think you're right about the whole all-pro voting thing. I think that's really going to make Josh motivated and the whole rest of the team too. So they can do it.
Awesome. Give a shout out to John right here coming on the show. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, who else do we got? We have somebody else. Come on up. Oh, there he is. Charlie, come on in, man. No, we don't have to lift. We're going to have to lift up the camera for this guy. All right.
I'm sorry.
It's all
6'4". It's tough.
All right, so how you feeling?
You know, I think like most of the last couple days, a little nervous.
Little nervous. That's okay. That's okay. We're here for you. Let us know
Thank
about the anxiety.
Yeah. Not a lot, though.
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Okay, that's good.
But my question is like Marvin Mims.
Mm.
Do they have an answer for him?
That's why I was talking about Matt Milano. Like, I really think those guys at the second level, whether it be Milano, Bernard, or Taron Johnson, they got to gang tackle. They got to get to the football. Marvin Mims, it's going to be about diagnosing pre-snap, obviously, getting guys to the football. You know that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to operate in that 5 to 7 yard range. That's what you're game planning for all week. So do you have the horses to do it? Here's something interesting, Ryan. Just thinking about this on the top of my head. It might be a situation where if Mims goes for a couple in the first quarter, you might want to work in Cole Bishop in there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Sean McDermott said he's going to kind of go with DeMar Hamlin, going to go with Taylor Rapp, but I would not be shocked if Cole Bishop has a big role in this playoff run, if DeMar Hamlin has a kind of a short leash of sorts, especially if the Bills struggle early on with making those plays, making those tackles by the line.
What do you think?
I think that's a big thing is he's the X factor in this game. The running backs don't scare me. They don't do well. As a fantasy owner, I was disappointed when Williams got pulled.
Yep.
I mean, he is the guy, and they just said, Estime, McLaughlin, now you're taking over the role.
Right.
You're going to get Sutton to do his thing. They don't have tight ends, but tackling is an issue.
Yeah.
It's been an issue all year. If Mims getting open space, I'm scared about that part of it. Like you said about the return game, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he gets the ball, not a great special teams team, that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my biggest pet peeve of the night is if Mims gets going, there's no stopping Denver. But then you also look at 17 across the other side. Will he be Superman and do it again? And he's proven he will.
I think the one thing the Bills have going for themselves too in this game, if that happens, say they strike early in the game, like first, second quarter, the Bills have been as good as any team in the NFL this year at making halftime adjustments. So it's about preparing, getting the tape work done during the week, but then it's about who can adjust quicker in game. And that's the part where if you have Josh Allen and you know that the offense is probably going to give you somewhere between 24 and 30 points at least, even against a good defense, you got to hope that the adjustments can be made and they can figure it out and keep them under that 24-point margin. It's going to be tough.
And we know the Bills score 30 points 8 times this year.
Yeah.
That's a huge run, right? So that's my biggest thing with the game. My question to you guys is, who is going to surprise you tomorrow? I'm not talking the top guys. I'm saying who comes out in the playoffs and really hasn't had that role all season long and shows up. Is it a Ray Davis shows up?
So you're calling your shot there with the Ray Davis one.
Well, I'm saying who comes in? Right. Ty Johnson, because the matchup with Denver is their linebackers can't cover.
Mm-hmm.
So who becomes that guy? And what about the defense too? Who steps up there? And I'll leave so you guys can have your time.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'll let Ryan start off on this one.
Yeah, offensively for me, I've already mentioned Ty Johnson. That is my X factor pick. You've seen him go from a third down back into more of just that number 2 running back for the Bills because of his blocking ability, rushing ability, and ability to also catch the ball out of the backfield and down the field for that matter. So for offense, that's who I would go with. And then, defensively, it's tough, but I'll go with an outlier. I'll go with Dwan Smoot. I think Smoot is a guy that can be a factor for this defensive line. You need the D-line to win. A lot of veteran experience there. And if you're going for someone off the radar, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Somebody for me that I've liked a lot over the last couple of weeks in a very limited role is Quentin Jefferson. And I wonder if he's active on game day, if he's somebody that could kind of enter the mix as kind of like a game-changing play. Like if he were to make a sack in a big-time moment, I think that would be about as surprise of a player as you can find. I'm expecting Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, like I talked about to the insiders earlier today. And speaking of which, if you want to become an insider, if you're here, sign up right on this sign right here. But text 716-528-6727. I was telling him today that, there are some pieces on this team that you trust in. I think you trust Greg Rousseau. I don't know if Oliver's necessarily in that bucket with the way that he's performed this season, but I almost feel like you got to trust him because you need him to be that guy come tomorrow and throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. You got to go with the guys that you've come to the dance with the last few years, and you're right. That is Ed Oliver. That's Greg Rousseau, these younger players. You're hoping it's Matt Milano of days past, that he's healthy, he's ready to go. And Terrell Bernard, too. He had a little bit of a letdown season after a breakout year last year. How does he look in this matchup with Milano, with the communication? Can they take advantage of a rookie quarterback in a playoff matchup?
One last thing before we get out of here. My cousin Phil is in the house tonight. He works at M&T Bank. Put this thing up real quick.
Absolutely.
I want to show this off on screen. Can you figure it out? Yeah, there you go. There you go. So they made these new flags. What does it say on there, Ryan? Can you read it?
Believe together.
Believe together. New little Bills playoff M&T flag. They gave out 25,000 of these today. Wow. You can pick up yours at M&T Bank. Listen, that's a free ad right there for M&T Bank. So have your people call my people, Philly. All right, buddy. All right, Ryan Talbot, final thought. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, final thought. Let's go into this playoff, stay healthy, win a game, and maybe we'll be back here again next week previewing another playoff game.
Listen, I cover the team. I don't necessarily root for the Bills anymore, but I do tell people this all the time. I do root for them to win, for my family, my son, my wife, my dad, all those folks in my family. I want to go to New Orleans. I want to cover a Super Bowl. So I want the Bills to get hot here over the next couple of weeks. It starts tomorrow. We'll be with you after the game. Bills versus Broncos, 1 p.m. from here at Wingnutz. Thank you so much for hosting us once again. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Enjoy the game.